Good afternoon. I really like this lesson as it teaches you to think through the actual steps of solving an equation. So just to let you know what's happening is on the left side is the equations and the steps as we proceed through it. On the right side is the verbal sentence or statement that tells us what we've done. So for instance, we start out with the 10u plus 8 equals 18. And then that's the first statement or first equation on the left. In the second column, it says we subtract 8 from both sides. So that's what we're going to do to move from that first statement to the second statement. So if we minus 8 from the left, we would just get a 10u. On the right side, it leaves it up to you to figure out what 18 minus 8 is, which hopefully you know is 0, which is 10. Then it says to go from that step to the next step, we're going to divide both sides by 10. So if we divide both sides by 10, we're left with a single u on the left, and on the right, 10 divided by 10 is 1. So as we move forward, though, you're going to get to somewhere it actually has you tell what's being done. So again, here, what's happened is, if you'll notice, they've left the y plus 2. So they divided both sides by 2. So on the right, 4 divided by 2 would be 2. Then they subtracted 2 from both sides, and we're left with y equals 0. Here, if we're left with the numerator in that second statement, the b plus 15, somehow they removed the division by 7. Well, they did that by multiplying both sides by 7. And so if I take the 9 and multiply by 7, I get 63. And now we minus the 15 from both sides. 63 minus 15 would be 48. Here, again, it shows you that they left the fraction. They removed the 1 somehow. How did they remove it? Well, they tell you. They subtract 1 from both sides. So 7 minus 1 is 6. Then they had a division by 14 in that second statement, which is gone in the third statement. And how did they do that? Well, they multiplied both sides by 14. So we just got to multiply 6 by 14, and that would be 84. I'm going to jump ahead because I believe what they're going to eventually do is go like this, where they show the first statement, or the original equation, -4 parentheses v minus 11 parentheses equals 8. And then they get to the second statement of just having a v minus 11 equals -2. Well, how would they have done that? Well, they give you options. They either add a -4 to both sides, that wouldn't work. They subtract -4 from both sides. Well, that wouldn't work. They multiply both sides by -4. That doesn't also work. They divided both sides by -4. That one worked. The last one, combining like terms, they didn't combine any like terms. So again, now we're actually having to put in what's been done. And then the next statement is given to us. They add 11 to both sides. So adding 11 to the left gets rid of the -11. Adding 11 to the -2 gives us 9. Again, they're going to continue to do that. Again, somehow they've went from a fraction of a p plus 3 over -7 equaling -7 to just a p plus 3 equaling 49. Well, obviously they got rid of the division of -7 by multiplying by -7. Not adding, not subtracting, not dividing, not combining like terms, but by multiplying both sides by -7. Now they're getting rid of that plus 3 by subtracting 3 from both sides, which gives us a final solution of 46. Again, I'm going to jump ahead because I believe they're going to give you more than one step now. So again, just look at the first original statement in the top left and think about what would they have done to get to that second equation in the second row there. So they went from a 15b to a 3b on the left, and there's no b's on the right. So obviously they must have minused off 12 b's from the right, and if they did that to the right, they must do it to the left. So they didn't add 12 b's. That would end up being 24 b's on the left. They subtracted 12b. They didn't multiply, didn't divide, and didn't apply the distributive property. So we subtracted 12b from both sides. Now we have the 3b plus 8 equals -10, and somehow they went to just a 3b equals -18. Well, somehow they removed a plus 8 on the left. Well, they would do that by subtracting 8, but they did that from both sides, and that's how they got the -18 on the right. Last step they give us, divide both sides by 3. -18 divided by 3 would be -6. Here they have a 5-step equation. So again, what did they do to get from the top equation that has parentheses to the next equation that doesn't? Well, they obviously have distributed in the 2, right? 2 times r is 2r, 2 times 8 is 16. The 7 didn't change, the -9 didn't change, -19, I mean, didn't change. So they obviously applied the distributive property. Then, we have a 16 plus 7. We're going to add or combine like terms. They tell us what they're doing there, and 16 plus 7 is 23. Then they minus the 23 over from the -19, removing it from the left side, so we're minusing or subtracting 23 from both sides. And last, divide both sides by 2 and get -21. Again, I'm going to jump ahead, show you the hardest you might see. Again, 5 steps, but again, just think about what's happening. We went with an equation that had parentheses to an equation without parentheses. And I went from a 9 and a 3 to a 27, a 9 and a 6 to a 54. I must have distributed in. I applied the distributive property. Then I had multiple terms on the left side, and 3 terms on the left side, and I went down to 2 terms. Well, I must have combined 2 of those terms on the left side. So I combined like terms. Now it says that they're going to add 9s to both sides, or 9s, not 9s, add 9s to both sides. That's going to remove the -9s on the right side, adding a 9s to the -13 would leave you a -4s. Be careful with your signs. Then, obviously, they removed the -54 from the left, bringing it to the right, so they added 54 to both sides. Then they divide by -4, and we get a -118. 64 divided by 4 is 18. And 1 was negative. Ooh, I did something wrong. Let's see what I did wrong. I applied the distributive property. Oh, I didn't divide correctly. -16. 64 divided by 4 is not 18, it's 16. So I made a simple mistake there. So always take the time when you make a mistake to look to see what your mistake was and figure out what it was. Everything I did correctly till the very last step, and then I just didn't know my multiplication tables. Grab a calculator, use a calculator if it helps. Make sure you're getting that right answer. So I got it, I figured out what I did wrong. Again, I'm going to jump ahead. I'm going to jump ahead again. See what's the hardest they might give us. Look at this. Woo! So again, you're just going to walk through it one step at a time. They went from an equation that had parentheses to an equation without parentheses. So they either divided by the -8, which would remove it from in front of the parentheses, or they distributed in. But looking at it, they've distributed in. So I applied the distributive property, which if I do that, -8 times a +10 would be a negative. Well, they already put the negative. Be careful. They already have the minus sign right there. So it's going to be a -80. Don't accidentally make it a -80. That would be incorrect. Then it looks like they've added like terms because they went from a 3-term expression in that second equation down to a 2-term. So -80 minus 8 more would be a -88. And again, be very careful. They've included a negative for you. You don't have to. Then it looks like they've added 88 to both sides. Oh, I should come up here and say that they combine like terms there. Now we're going to add 88 to both sides, which is going to give us a +80. And then what do you think the last step would be? Well, obviously it's going to be divide by -80, which will give us a -1. Again, it's just walking through it. I really like this because it's going to really help you to think about the steps in solving an equation. If you have questions or need help, please do come to class and ask, and I will more than gladly help you.